Most people don't understand how intergenerational trauma works, but I'm going to explain it to you in about 2 minutes. Imagine someone growing up impoverished on the streets, nobody else, orphaned at a very, very early age. They're a kid and they're trying to learn how to regulate emotions and how to interact with people. There's nobody to train them how to do that. They turn about 25 and things happen and they wind up having a child of their own. They're left alone to raise that child on their own. And remember, they don't have any of the skills that they need to train a child because nobody taught them those skills. But for whatever reason, over the course of their life, over the course of various kind interactions, they learned a little bit of that kindness and compassion, and they really want to do well by that child. They do their best with the child, and they look to the world around them to see, how do I do that? Yeah, sometimes they neglect the child, or beat the child, or can't respond to the child's emotional needs because they just don't have that skill. That child ultimately winds up undomiciled as well. But the parent managed to do a good enough job that they are motivated that if there's one thing they're going to do in their life, they're going to treat their children with kindness. They wind up having a kid, and that third generation is actually treated fairly well. They don't have a lot of resources, but they do have a very motivated parent. So they wind up learning that I'm loved, I'm cared for, and they take some opportunities and they find a way to get a little bit of education. They wind up getting a job, and this generation, this third generation, is actually able to find a place to live. They marry somebody, and the two of those people work together to make sure that child has education and opportunity. This fourth generation really appreciates that because they know how close they are to the suffering of grandma and grandpa and great-grandma and great-grandma, who they didn't really know very well. Take their opportunities really seriously, and they wind up making a lot of progress in terms of socioeconomic mobility in their lifespan. There are some holdovers from the earlier generations, like corporal punishment, a lot of difficulty regulating strong emotions. When they're raising that fifth generation, they are able to rein that in a little bit. That fifth generation is able to take the opportunity of the fourth generation and really build upon it, and now they have a pretty stable family structure. And while everyone's pissed off at dad, who's a bit narcissistic, and mom, who's a little bit anxious, the things that they did when they were kids, they forgive them because they did a good enough job and they all cohere as a family unit. So you can see the intergenerational trauma perpetuating, but you can also see how healing can happen through generations. Fast forward a couple generations and it gets really, really, really good until one generation, let's say it's generation 8, really doesn't remember where their family structure came from. They're bored and their struggle is of self-actualization, and they wind up making a lot of mistakes and losing the family fortune, and the cycle repeats itself. You can see that not everyone who does something wrong, not everyone who does something cruel, not every parent who's not super effective is necessarily evil. It's just intergenerational trauma. And while it's hard to heal all the way in one generation, all of us have the potential to make progress towards healing that intergenerational trauma, one step, one decision at a time.